So this tip talks about several of the common issues that you can run into when you're using links. I have a value in cell B6 that's coming from an external workbook, and we can see that in the formula bar. It's coming from book 1. Well, if I, without having this current workbook open, move book 1 to a new location, when I open this workbook up, that link is going to be broken. But what I can do is go to the Data tab, left-click Edit Links, and click Change Source to change the source of the data so that I can go to the new location of the workbook, select it, and reestablish that link for that cell. Another problem that you can run into when you're dealing with links, and this is internal to the workbook itself, is if you have a reference in a formula or a function that references a range, and that cell is deleted, you're going to get an error message. It still references a range, but it references a range that doesn't exist anymore. And in fact, when you go to the Formulas tab, to the Name Manager, that range is actually still listed, My Range. I'm going to close that, and I'm going to reestablish a value in that cell, and then name that cell My Range. Control Enter. And the value is picked up by the cell because it references what is now a valid range. So if you should delete an area or some cells that contain a range that's referenced in a formula, you can reestablish that value, and your formulas will just pick up the value in the redefined named range. Another thing that can happen with charts is that if a chart is created on a workbook, and either that chart sheet or the worksheet that the chart is embedded on is moved to another workbook, which is what I did, you're going to have a chart that's linked to data in a workbook that's different than the workbook that the chart is in. So to find out if that's the case, with the chart selected, go to the Design tab, left-click Select Data, and I can see the chart data range is coming from book 1. In fact, I'm taken to that workbook, which is a workbook that's different than the workbook that the chart is in. You can change this by copying the data into the workbook where the chart is, and then repointing that chart to that data. But this is at least one way to find out whether you have the case where the chart and the data is contained in two separate workbooks.